So Eve's question is, does that strike me in any way as an unfair advantage for Amazon, this kind of vertical integration where they are both publisher and retailer? And my own biases might be coming into play here, but I would have said this before I started working with Amazon. In fact, I did many times. No, I don't think it's unfair, but I don't usually analyze business things in terms of fairness. That's not really my way. I tend to analyze things more in terms of stupidity and intelligence than I do in terms of fairness and unfairness. For example, if you, legacy publishers pay approximately 15% royalties, right? So if a digital book is, a digital book sells for $10 retail, you as the author will collect $1.70 on that, sorry, $1.75, 17.5% of the retail price. That's not very much for the author who wrote that book, right? Publisher keeping approximately 85%, whether it's paper or digital or whatever. Publisher keeping 85%, giving the author only 15%. A lot of people say that's unfair. I never say that. I think they should go for 90%. Try for 99%. I would. We're human, we're greedy, it's how we're built. So I wouldn't say 99%. I don't even think 99% is unfair. I think it would be stupid. I think you would drive a lot of authors, even more authors, to self-publishing. I wouldn't do it if I were trying to run a successful business, but if you can get away with it and make money, go for it. Similarly, if an author charged, I don't know, $100, that's too much. Let's say 20 because it's crazy, but let's say $20 for a digital title. A lot of people, I know this, would say it's unfair. A lot of people say that my self-published short stories at $2.99 are unfairly highly priced. I get that fairly often. You can look at some of my Amazon reviews. People say that's not fair. And I say, I don't really think of it in those terms. I mean, if you think that's too much to pay and the book doesn't have that kind of value for you, you don't buy it. You shouldn't. You'd be crazy to buy it. For me, I figure, you know, a latte costs more than $2.99, and that'll only give you 10 minutes of pleasure. 15 if you sip slowly. You know, and if you're an equally slow reader, you can have 2 hours of pleasure from just 1 second from one of my short stories. But I won't be able to convince you logically, right? Because nobody's logical in these matters, and we're not. It's like the latte feels worth it, and the short story doesn't, or it does, or it doesn't, or whatever. So that's the way I approach these things, and I think any publisher at this point would love to have a retail operation. They'd be crazy if they didn't, right? This is what publishers should have done. It's tragic. Well, it's not really, I mean, it is what it is, but they should have started their own retail. They should have come together and started their own retail stores. The only thing that could have saved legacy publishing, and that this would have needed to get started at least 10 years ago, probably 15. And they didn't do it. Someone smarter did it instead. What would you do if you were Amazon? And you're like, God, this is what I want to do strategically. I want to charge lower prices. I want to sell more digital books and and accelerate the adoption. God, and these publishers are getting in my way. They're forcing me to charge more than I want to charge for my own wares. What would you do? You would do what they did. You'd say, bypass, bypass. It's not evil, it's not good, it's not fair, it's unfair. It's just natural business decision. You guys are not doing what we want to do, and so we're going to do something different. So that's the way I tend to look at these things. Yeah.
Why won't they publish, like, can you talk about the terms of the deal that you have with Amazon?
Sure. I mean, well, so Amazon asked me to talk about, what can I talk about, what can I talk about? Certain specifics they asked me not to go into.
Why?
And yeah, exactly. So this is it's so interesting to me. People say, why? You know, why? What are they hiding? Those bastards. They're worse than the government. I think the reason's pretty obvious. So Amazon offered me an exceptionally favorable digital split. That a digital split that in their mind might have even represented the absolute ceiling that they were willing to consider when publishing a given author. But if everybody knows what that split was, then authors will start thinking it's actually a floor, and it becomes harder for them to negotiate new deals. Even if I could tell you all about the specifics, it would not help you. What will help you, and what I'm very happy to talk about, is the broad things that we did in the agreement. Because, so people say, well, look, if you don't tell me what you got from Amazon, then I'm not even going to talk to them. You know, it's like, I don't have any dog in that fight. You can talk to them or not talk to them. I mean, it's just, it doesn't affect me. I don't get a commission or something like that, you know. But I will tell you that, as I've said in many, many interviews and blog posts, etc., Amazon offered me a digital split that was far, I'll even say it twice, far, far better than what any legacy publisher was willing to consider. And we know what legacy publishers are willing to consider. Actually, let me break this down for you very quickly. Legacy publishers talk about 25%. We'll give you 25% of the digital split, of the split on a digital title, right? They talk about 25%, but remember, they're talking about 25% of net. This is important. I'm not very good with math, so I'm going to use really easy numbers, like $10. $10 cover price on a book. If you get that 25% number in your mind, you're thinking, well, that's not so bad. Actually, it is even at 25%, but let's say 25% of $10 is $2.50. Not bad, but that's not what the percentage comes off. It's off, not off retail, it's off net. Net means this. The publisher sells Amazon that $10 retail priced book, and Amazon pays the publisher, but keeps 30%. The publisher takes $7 of that 10. Amazon keeps 3. That's how Amazon makes its money selling that book. The publisher gets $7. We get, as authors, 25% of the remaining 7, not the original 10. That's important to understand. So 25% of net, what does that mean? It means 17.5% of retail. So don't go for the head fake. And make sure you're comparing apples to apples, as the saying goes. The highest price that legacy publishers, the best split legacy publishers will offer any author right now, is 17.5% of retail. There are a few wacky exceptions to this that I don't think that should concern really any of us in this room. Stephen King, for example, takes only a very small advance in exchange for 50-50 profit sharing. He also only leases his books for something like 10 or 15-year terms. Very interesting article recently in the Wall Street Journal about Stephen King. I wouldn't worry too much about what Stephen King is doing. Anyway, publishers will only offer 17.5% at the most. Amazon offered me, I will just say, far, far more than that. And therefore, if you're trying to publish a book and you have an opportunity to see whether Amazon might be interested in publishing it, I would suggest it's worth talking to them. You don't need to know what number I received or what number another author received for you to know that it would be worth your while to try to get that information. It won't help you. Might be interesting for you, and I'll just tell you it was a really good split, made me happy. And I think Amazon could be a little more public with these things, just as a way of attracting more authors, because if people knew, they'd be running to Amazon. So digital is exploding, paper is shrinking. I make much more money per digital book I sell than per paper book I sell. Digital is much more important to me as a business person who makes a living selling books. So I'm not, in exchange for the explosion in digital sales that I got with Amazon, and it was an explosion, remarkable number of digital books that we sold together, in exchange for that, how could I say this without, people get so political. Actually, I don't care if I sell another paper book in my life compared to the amount of digital I'm selling. Now, I have to add, that doesn't mean I don't like paper bookstores or I'm insulting anyone who likes to read paper books. That would be my daughter, my wife, and myself. We all like paper books. But look, I really am, on this, I'm a pragmatist. What matters to me is not digital and it's not paper, it's books. I want people to read books. The more people that read and buy books, the better it is for society, I think. Certainly the better it is for my bottom line. So I am totally agnostic about how people read books. They seem to like them in digital more and more and in paper less and less. I get that. I don't have to take a position on it. It doesn't make me happy or sad necessarily. It's just the trend, and I'm trying to take advantage of it. And it's such a powerful trend. And I make so much more in digital that it was totally worth it for me going into this deal with Amazon knowing I wouldn't sell as many paper books. I don't care. So the question is, has to do with marketing. And here's a quick distinction I want to make. We need to be clear about this. This is what digital means. The advent of digital distribution means that any author, any lone individual, I guess that's redundant, any individual has exactly the same distribution power that any multinational billion-dollar conglomerate has. Do you all realize that? Because a lot of people don't. If we're just talking about your ability to distribute a book in paper, you can't by yourself. You can, but you'd have to load up your station wagon or something and drive it around the country. You couldn't distribute books in paper by yourself in a meaningful way. It just can't be done. It'd be extremely laborious and inefficient. It'd be hard to make any money doing it. So in a paper world, authors cannot distribute without a big distribution partner. In a digital world, we are on an absolutely level playing field. Now, sometimes if a publisher hears me say that, they'll say, what are you talking about, Eisler? You're full of shit. We have marketing teams and sales forces and brochures and things like that. And I would say, you're talking about marketing. Marketing is a separate topic. I'm just talking about distribution. My book is 100% as available to consumers in digital, self-published, as it will be if a New York publisher publishes it. You get that, right? This is important. Now we have a secondary challenge, which exists for books always and always will, because it exists for all products always and always will. Marketing. Just because the book is available doesn't mean anyone's heard of it or will know to buy it or want to buy it. So marketing's a challenge. Amazon has really unmatched marketing muscle because they have the email address who's ever bought a book at Amazon's store. Anyone who's ever bought one of my books from Amazon got an email about the detachment. Hey, did you enjoy Rainfall, Hard Rain, all the rain this, rain that titles that Putnam insisted on using? Because Barry Eisler has a new book coming out. That's a lot of people, a fair number of people, and they can go further, and they did. Lee Child's a writer I like very much, a thriller writer. People who like Lee's books tend to like mine, and vice versa. So I don't know exactly what sort of demographics they use, but they've got algorithms showing who likes what, and if you like Lee, you probably like me. And this is a very, very big list. I mean, millions of people, mystery and thriller writers. So they sent out an email to a significant list of people who, not at random, but because they like this kind of book. And the response has been enormous. Nobody else can do that. I'm not, again, if it sounds like I'm shilling for Amazon, then that's what you're going to think. I don't get a commission on this kind of thing. I'm just telling you the way it is. Nobody has that kind of marketing power. Now, here's a separate problem. If you're self-published, and you've never been published before, nobody's heard of you, then this is scary, right? So the good news is your distribution problem has been solved. You want to use an aggressive mix of pricing, good covers, a quality story. I mean, come on, I feel like in some ways it goes without saying, but I should say it. Don't rush. Don't turn out something that's shoddy, even on a substance level or on a polish level. If it's got lots of typos and things like that, people get irritated. They'll leave you low one-star reviews and that sort of thing. Invest in a quality cover designer. Make the book look good. Don't do what New York does, which is just to pull the first idea out of whatever part of their body they're pulling it out of and slap it on the front of the book and hope it works. That's not well calculated to increase your sales. Excuse me. You want to package the book properly. So a lot of things you can do. If you blog, if you have any kind of a presence, if your book is about, I don't know, gardening, and you're part of a gardening club, there are a lot of things you can do, and they're not so different from the kinds of things aggressively marketing authors like I did when I was legacy published. I mean, I did crazy stuff that I could talk about. You have to. This is one more thing I gotta say. Please keep this in mind. The comparison between legacy publishing and self-publishing should be between the reality of legacy publishing and the reality of self-publishing. Too many people compare the reality of self-publishing to the theory or the ideal of legacy publishing, and this will steer you in the wrong direction. So don't think, well, if I self-publish, I have to market the book. If I go with a legacy publisher, they'll take care of all that for me. Right? That's not true. It could be true, just like you could win the lottery, and some authors do. There are stories, not stories not in the mythology or tales sense of stories, there are examples of authors who have signed with a legacy publisher, and the practice, the reality, has perfectly matched the ideal. Great editor, great attention, great cover design, massive marketing effort, everything done not just competently, but superbly, with the result being monster sales. It's not that it never happens. It does happen, but it happens in maybe 1 in 1,000 instances. Just recognize that the theory of publishing and the reality of publishing are not always the same thing. Both systems essentially represent a kind of lottery. Be clear about that. Statistically, if you publish a book with a legacy publisher, statistically, the book will not succeed. It won't earn out its advance, and you will maybe write a second book, a third book, and then it's going to be time to adopt a new pen name or something like that. I'm not trying to be pessimistic. I mean, legacy publishing was great for me. I did very well in legacy publishing. I'm one of the success stories. But bear in mind that the chances, statistically, are not good. But this is true for self-publishing, too. People are like, well, you know what? You're right. The hell with it. I'm going to self-publish. Make $1 million. Look at the numbers in self-publishing. They're bad, too. So then you have to figure out what is important to you.